Hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo podcast. My name is Jemma, and this week I have just the one Pure Nintendo friend to join me. So I guess we're the dynamic duo this week. I have Kirk.
Hi, Trevor. He already lost his title.
I know. Last week, we did say you were going to fight it out. So,
well, yeah, we know.
Guess
who
you're the
won.
winner. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Trev. But yes, welcome, Kirk, and thank you for joining me this week. We have a nice little collection of games to talk about, a few interesting announcements, things we're playing. But let's start off with what we do every week at the moment, which is a bit of a Tears of the Kingdom update. Would you like to go first, Kirk? I'm hoping you've done something exciting. I've had a bit of a short week with the game, but maybe you finished it, or maybe you've found the Master Sword. You said you knew where it was, but you hadn't retrieved it. Am I right in saying that?
That's right. And unfortunately, I have not retrieved it. I didn't play nearly as much over the past week as I had been the previous weeks, mainly because of some review games that are coming in that I wanted to get through when the embargo lifts. So, yeah, I kind of broke away from it and didn't really do much at all except watch Sam play his game. He did some very interesting things. He spent a lot of time down in the Abyss.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm still avoiding the Abyss. But I did. You'll be pleased to know I am making my way. I haven't made it yet, but I am making my way to the first temple. Well, not the first one. They're not really in order, but to my first temple. So I decided to actually check out one of the regional phenomena, whatever the word is. And of course, in true sort of Link style, as we said last week with ADHD, things just keep happening on the way to this location. I'm running, and so I've gone to the sort of wintry region of the map, which is the top sort of left, northwest, I think, and near Rito Village. And along the way, there's a little house with some monsters outside it. I'm like, oh, what's going on over there? So I go and check it out, and of course, the people inside are trapped because there's monsters outside, so I have to take care of them. There's just things on the way, and then I found the stable. It's not a stable. It's actually the headquarters of the news. What do you call the news over there?
So do you mean in the United States? The news?
No. No, sorry. I meant in Hyrule. There's the little outlet for the news.
I can't remember what it's called. That was one of the first things I did, actually. So it was so long ago. I've been traveling around to the stables to get the stories, the scoop on what's going on with Zelda.
Well,
but I can't remember the name of the publication.
I think it's qualifications for automatic dismissal, but that's okay. I love it, though, because you talk to the editor or whomever is in charge there, and she recognizes you straight away. But the sort of bird guy that you're talking to before that, who seems like a hotshot journalist, he doesn't have a clue who you are. And so you're kind of working undercover with him, not revealing your identity, but traveling from stable to stable to get these scoops on Zelda, like you said. What I find annoying from my perspective is that I've just found this news post outlet, and I've already been to all the stables. So now I have to go back, I suppose, to them. Thankfully, there is a shrine next to each one, so it's easy to travel. But it's like, so I haven't done that. I'm just like, well, I'm going to keep on my path to Rito Village, to this regional phenomena. I'll get my snowsuit or whatever the article of clothing is that you get in the village that I think gives you a bit more protection against the cold weather. And then I will attack my first dungeon. So that's my plan for the week, I suppose. I was trying to do that yesterday. I was like, maybe I can get to the dungeon, at least arrive at the temple before the podcast. But no, it's like I said, it's just so much to do in the meantime. Anyway, it's been a fun week as always. But yeah, plenty more to go. So, just out of interest, where is Sam? Has he defeated dungeons, bosses? What's he doing?
He's stalling at this point, I think, before completing the game. He's got everything he needs to go forward, and he kind of hit that plateau sort of like I do, where, especially in a game like this, and it's the same thing that happened with Breath of the Wild, you get everything you need to finish, but you don't want it to end yet. So you just kind of have to put everything on hold and then just go around. Like with me, it was how many quests can I finish? I'm going to go around and help out as many people as I can before I finish. Because once you do get that final victory, even though you could still go back and do all that, I really don't have the incentive anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
If I do it before I get that final victory, then I feel like I'm still doing it the right way. So it's weird.
Yeah, I get that. Definitely. Yeah. I have to say, I keep finding our friend Addison from, President Hudson's helper. And every time I see him and help him, I'm like, is this the time I'm going to meet President Hudson? Because you said you meet him. But maybe it's not with one of these little puzzles. Maybe it's separate. But I still haven't met the president. So.
Yeah, he's at a specific location.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't found him yet.
You're not going to meet him out with Addison.
Fair enough. Every time I see him, I'm like, is Professor Hudson going to jump out and say thanks? No. Doesn't. That's okay. I've done a bunch. I don't know. I wish there was a counter because I'd like to know how many I've done. But I've done quite a few. Anyway, that's all good.
Yep.
So
I would like to see President Hudson reward Addison the same way that going back to the news, the woman who's running the news, each time you go to the stable and you get like a little bit of the story on Zelda, you get paid. And then every now and again, she gives you a bonus. Like,
cool.
What a great world they live in here where writers are actually getting paid and getting bonuses for their job.
Wow, what's that feel like? That's cool.
Yeah. Addison, as far as I know, didn't get anything.
No, just the satisfaction of doing a good job, which he's not even really.
Yeah, he's not doing a good job. So
he's relying on Link. Yeah. When I did meet the editor-in-chief or whatever she's called at the news outlet, she showed me some, I think it's like the froggy suit or something. It's like it's an armor that lets you climb without slipping on wet surfaces.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I really want that. But she wouldn't give. I thought she was going to give it to me straight away, upfront payment. But no, I have to go and get the scoop first, and then I'll get the suit. So that is a good incentive, though. I really do want that because slipping. There was actually this happened during the week as well. I was somewhere in the north east, I think. Oh, around that labyrinth. I don't know if you've seen those labyrinths. Those little islands. Yeah. So that's one thing I did during the week. I did find one of those labyrinths, and I was climbing a mountain. I was very close to the top, like within 2 meters, maybe, right? In real world meters. Oh, so you do feet, maybe 2 feet. I don't know. And it started to rain and I was slipping and I couldn't get up. I'm like, I'm so close. So I just waited for the rain to stop. I just sat there and waited. And it took maybe a few minutes and then it stopped. And then I kept on my merry way. So it was funny. So that would be a good moment where I could use a suit that doesn't slip. The other thing, the other interesting thing that happened during the week, I think last week I mentioned I fought some of the Yiga clan at the tech tower. This is the same area as where I was slipping, near the labyrinth kind of thing. And I went back to the tech tower again because this dragon was flying overhead, and I thought maybe I can reach him if I glide off this tower. I couldn't, but I went back to the tower. And the Yiga clan was back, and I had to fight them again, which I thought was a bit unfair. I've already beaten them. Why are you back?
Was there like one of the blood moons or something that brought them back?
No, I don't think so. And it was the same too. The big kind of guy, and then the sort of more jester-looking, slender person that is with him.
Yeah.
And I did them again. So I guess I got more rewards, but the tailor wasn't inside. He'd already given me his gift, so not sure what was happening there. And then I keep bumping into them on the road in the same area. This is the one I was exploring last week where I was getting very distracted. And I just wanted to help Addison. At one point, he was there as well. And then this Yiga clan person started attacking me. And then these 2 monsters started attacking me. And I'm like, what? Poor Addison. Yeah, it was chaotic. It was a very chaotic area. So that did keep me a little bit busy actually. And the one other thing I'll say that I found during the week, which is something Justin mentioned a few weeks ago, was the Gleeok, those 3-headed dragons.
Yes.
I saw one that was within range because normally I've found them, they're either up a very tall mountain or they're flying in the air. I can't even think about attacking them. Also, I'm scared of them. But this one was I had the high ground. So I thought, well, I'll save it and give it a go. So I did a quick save and glided down to him or her, I don't know, to it. And it started attacking. I think I got in one good shot and then it just one-shotted me. I think it was a thunder Gleeok. So it just threw lightning and thunder at me and wind the gusts of wind. I couldn't even stand up. So it did not go well at all. So I left. I went back to my save point and left.
I haven't fought one of those yet either. I came close to one. I ran away from one because he was attacking me. It was on the bridge, Hyrule Bridge.
Oh yeah. I think I've seen that one in the distance. Middle of it. Yeah.
I was on one side of the bridge and my horse was on the other. And I wanted to see if I could get close enough so that if I whistled, I could get my horse. And I just kept inching closer and closer to the dragon, trying to get my horse's attention. And eventually I got the dragon's attention. So I ran away. I went through at the edge of the bridges, they have those towers. And I went through the bottom of the tower. And the dragon couldn't get around it. He banged into it and then wouldn't go to the left or right or up. So he eventually gave up and went away, and I escaped with my life, but I did not get my horse. I had to go back to a stable and find him there magically.
Yeah, lucky about that. I did find the horse god as well, who, happily told me he could resurrect horses if they died. So that was nice. But I haven't had any diet. Yeah, very handy. So yes. So actually it wasn't too bad. It was a good week, just not a temple dungeon week. So yeah.
The one thing I do want to bring up, because I was going to mention it last week, was I found it was when I was taking one of those Koroks, trying to get one of the Koroks to a dude. And he was at the bottom of this mountain range, not like a huge mountain, but a big enough hill that I wasn't going to be able to get him up there easily. So I climbed up to the top of the hill. Usually my plan is to find a platform of some sort, just any kind of wood or the metal platforms, drop it over the edge, put him on it and attach it, and then rewind on that thing, and it takes him up to the top of the hill.
That's a good plan. Yeah.
I've done that a couple times successfully. But when I got up there, there was a dude there with when you go to the carnivals or the fairs and they have the hammer, you hit the thing and it goes up and rings the bell. It was like that, except without the hammer. What it was this bell at the top of a big tower. And this guy had just a ton of materials, and he just wanted you to ring the bell really loudly.
Right.
And the louder you ring it, the more points you get. So I built this other platform, and then I took one of those spring mechanisms that shoot you up in the air. You hit it with. I put that on it, and then I put a metal barrel on that, and then shot it with an arrow. So the spring just punched the bell with this metal barrel. I think I got 117. He said it was really good, but I could do better. So, but
it sounds impressive.
I was just completely fascinated that the developers thought, what we need here is this weird bell game just at this random spot. Why is that there? Who's climbing this hill and saying, 20 rupees to see if I could pull this off, check my engineering skills. Yeah.
Did you get a good reward?
I can't remember. I think it was all right. It was better than let's say a Sunderlion or arrows or whatever you're getting in the treasure chest these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was worth the investment. I haven't tried it again. I do know where it is though. So sometime I go back and see if I can do better.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen that. Have you seen, I can't remember. I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. I can't remember if you had seen it or not. There's a girl carrying with a horse and carriage, and she's got these teddy bears to give to kids. And then
I haven't seen that.
I've seen her twice. And you go up and say hello to her. She's practicing her speech. She's practicing what she's going to say to these kids about these bears. Hey, and she's got these funny puns. And then you say hello to her and scare her. And so she scares the horse, and the horse kicks the carriage, and the teddy bears go scattering around the area where you're standing. So she makes you pick them up, and you have to pay her 20 rupees, I think, as well. So it's a little mini game. And you have a time limit to pick them up and put them into the carriage, and then she rewards you. It's kind of fun. It's hard in one of the times I saw her because you're right next to water. So the teddy bears go into the water, and you have to retrieve them within, it's a minute. It's not very long. It took quite a few goes. And the first time I saw her, it was somewhere just in the middle, a random place in the middle of a forest. And I didn't know, I wasn't thinking about fusing. And I just tried to pick them up and put them in the carriage, and they kept bouncing out. And I'm like, this is impossible. How am I supposed to get the teddy bears in the carriage? They keep falling out. I couldn't even get one in there because I'm throwing them in and they're falling out. But of course, you could fuse them. So, you have to be clever and think about how to fuse them either to the carriage or to each other. But yeah, that was a fun little side quest, if you can call it a side quest, a mini game, I suppose. Very random. So look out for that. I'm sure you'll run into it eventually.
Eventually, I'm bound to, and who knows what else.
Yeah, the bell game, the teddy bear game. There's probably more. There must be more. So it's a big world. Yeah, very big world. Yes, and very fun and exciting. And I do love. I think Sam has the right idea in that. Once you complete it, I think it's kind of it's game over. It's not game over, but it feels like it's game over. And it's much less incentive to replay. So I probably would be the same. Just like with a favorite TV show, often I would not watch the final episode for some time because I just don't want it to end. I don't think I ever finished The Office, for example. Steve Carell, I really enjoyed that show, so I just never watched the last few episodes.
To this day, you haven't?
Yeah, so don't know how it ends. Probably should watch it. I mean, it ends.
I don't either. I think I gave up on it. There was I can't remember. There was one episode or one season where I was like, I've had enough. And
fair enough. Maybe that's what actually happened. And I just say that. But yeah, maybe I actually also got bored with it. Anyway, that's cool. Well, that's a good little Tears of the Kingdom update for the week. Thank you. Let's move on to some other news of the week, which there were quite a few games that were announced for the Switch. And these are in no particular order except the order that we've written them down. But the first one that I saw was that Fire Emblem is going to Switch Online next week. So this is the Game Boy Advance game, which is apparently, I think, the 7th game in the series, the first to be released in a Western region. So I think it's the first that was localized outside of Japan at the time. I think it was 2003 from memory. Something like that.
Yeah, it sounds right.
So it's about 20 years old. I think it was around that time. Yeah, 2003 in Japan and America, followed by Australia and Europe. So I haven't played this one, but any Fire Emblem is, exciting to get again, or for the first time if you're like me. Have you played this one, Kirk?
I have. I completed it once. I realized acknowledged my love for Fire Emblem and went to get all the others. I bought this. I have the actual Game Boy Advance cartridge, box, manual, the whole thing. And I played it. I guess I played it on my Game Boy Advance, or it may have been one that I shoved into the DS back when it still had the cartridge slot for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completed it there and I greatly enjoyed it. Even after playing the more modern games, this may have been the third game I played after Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, but still greatly enjoyed the characters, enjoyed the battles. I think some of these older games had better maps and required more strategy, and they were tougher because the recent games allow you to turn off permadeath, and back then they didn't. So if you lost a character, you either restarted that map or you just pressed on without that character. In fact, this may have been one of them. There are some where you could only unlock certain characters if others had died.
Oh, interesting.
And I believe the thought was we don't want to handicap them too much by not letting them have enough people. Too many people have died, you don't have enough to go in a battle, you don't stand a chance. So if certain people had died, I believe, then you could unlock others. So if you don't let people die, you're missing some characters.
That's interesting. That's I don't know if you call that incentive, but it's something. I mean, I guess
it's incentive to sacrifice people.
Yeah, I suppose it means if the game is particularly hard and you're worried about losing people, at least there are others that you will find.
So, when you're waiting,
yeah.
Do I really like this person or not? You're like, someone else will take his place. He's completely replaceable. Yeah,
that's interesting. And I think because permadeath is a thing in Fire Emblem, but like you said, it's an option in the newer games. You tend to leave it on usually in the newer ones when you have the option.
I do. And I don't know why, because if I do lose somebody, then I am going to have to go back and replay the level. But I guess I'm just a purist. It's kind of to me like driving a car with a manual transmission. I don't need it. There's no reason for it, but I know how to drive with a stick, so I'm going to buy a car with a stick.
True. Yeah. Well, I drive stick, so I can relate to that.
Then you're a permadeath kind of gal.
Yeah, must be. I don't know if I had it on in the latest Fire Emblem. Maybe. I'll have to go and check. I do get scared of losing people. But, it is a challenge. And it is, like you said, if you lose them, you do go back and try to do it again where they are not lost. So.
Yeah. And it really forces you to think a little bit because you're afraid of losing people. So you get a little smarter with your strategies. You're a little more careful. And I think that makes the game more fun.
Yeah, it definitely ups the ante. So I think if you're a sort of, I don't want to say the word pro because it doesn't mean you have to be good at it. But if you're a purist, I suppose, like you said, or someone who takes these games seriously, it seems like the way to play, and it adds that extra challenge and longevity, I suppose, it makes the game last longer too, when you think about it. If you're replaying it so that you don't lose people. Yeah. Otherwise you kind of,
if there's a character you don't like, just get rid of them.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, normally, when you start a Fire Emblem game and you have a certain cast of characters, and then eventually this cast expands and grows, and you have sort of almost too many people, for a battle, you can't choose all of them, right? So you end up having your favorites, and they level up more, regularly than the ones you're not using. So at some point, you do have your favorites, and you do choose the ones that you want to stick with. And I kind of feel bad for the other ones. I'm like, oh, should I use them and level them up? But no, I like these people. So, yeah.
That may be another element that, and I can't recall, I think it was in this particular game, but again, going back to Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn and some others, when you won fights, the people that you took into the battle, of course, leveled up, as you used them. But at the end of a battle, you were rewarded bonus experience points that you could assign to anybody. So after the battle was done, the better you did, the more bonus points you got, then you could go to your camp and just give them to whoever, which was a great way to keep some of the lesser characters or new characters who may have come in too low leveled up. So you could basically take anybody with you. Or if there was someone you really liked, you could just really level up that one person with all these bonus items and then, make them an OP monster.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the final fight.
Yeah, that's cool. What was your choice? How did you go about it?
It depends. If there was a character I really liked. In fact, I could say for certain that at least in Radiant Dawn, I really put a lot of experience points into a Lancer named Nephany. Chosen almost specifically because her colors were kind of the colors of the Seattle Seahawks, and that's all you need for me to earn my loyalty. So, but I also, I would keep, if there was a character that was that I kind of liked or wanted to get to know better, or that I felt as he or she leveled up would unlock some really great abilities that would be useful, then I would kind of push along most people. So if you would get stuck behind, one or two would get leveled up too much, but for the most part, I kept everyone in sync.
Yeah, thank you, Kirk. I think I love hearing about the way you play because, everyone has different styles and there's probably something that the developers have in mind for us, but at least they give you options and you can kind of play your own way, which is cool. Even if you're a Seahawks fan, I think if they can work that into your play method, I think that's pretty awesome. I'd love to know how other people. I'm sure you're not the only one who relates a team to their gaming style or character that they like. I'd love to hear that might be a good question for Twitter, actually, or even YouTube. We could do a poll. That's cool. All right. Well, thank you. That's a good wrap up of Fire Emblem. I'm looking forward to that. So that comes out next week. I think it's the 23rd. That'll be in our eShop releases, I guess, for the week, which would be a nice addition. Will you have time to play it, do you think? amongst other things.
I'll download it. I want to play it a bit because I want the numbers to go up a little bit. So Nintendo will look into bringing
Good
if
point.
they ever get to the point where they have GameCube games
Oh yes,
available, then they would know that Path of Radiance is one that they should definitely do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be a great game to put on the Switch Lite. Because it originally was made for a tiny screen anyway.
Yeah.
And then, when Sam's on the main Switch playing Zelda or what have you, then I can pull that up and play a couple rounds.
Yeah, I think it'll work well. I think I've said before, I did love the ones that were on the sort of the 3DS, the DS. And yeah, so the handheld feel of a Fire Emblem game I really enjoy that. Yep. So yeah, I'll go check that one out as well. Cool. Let's move on to the next one on our list, which is Persona 5 Tactica, which is coming to Switch. Now, I don't know much about this one. I think you added this line. And what would you like us to know about this?
Well, yeah, I think the reason I put it on here is because I found the announcement kind of odd. Of course, we now have Persona 5 on the Switch. I haven't played that. I had it on the PS3, if I'm allowed to say that here.
No,
we got the kids a PS3, and I think I ended up buying 2 games for it just to try it out. And one of them was Persona 5, and I decided I'm not cool enough, I believe, to play these games. They center around they're turn-based battle games, along the lines of same kind of combat as, let's say, the Shin Megami Tensei games, which of course are available on Nintendo devices. So I kind of had to feel what was going on. Yeah. But the characters in this game were just way too cool for me. And I felt like an old man trying to be hip with the high school kids. So it didn't really click with me. But it came out. I believe it did well. They have announced now Persona 3 Reload, which is a remake of Persona 3. And they announced Persona 5 Tactica, which is a spin-off game, which is more of a, again, kind of a turn-based combat, but grid-style gameplay. Sort of like Fire Emblem, I suppose, but not like with the overhead approach and the chess-style gameplay. I may be confusing myself with this, but anyway. So Persona 5 Tactica is coming to the Switch, but Persona 3 is not. And I just thought it was strange after bringing Persona 5 to the Switch. Why would they not bring the Reload, quote unquote, version of Persona 3?
That is strange. So, yeah, I'm not sure how to follow that up. Persona. So this might be a dumb question. Is there Persona 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is that just generally how it goes? Right? I don't know much about the series.
I don't know a whole lot either. I know that Persona 3, 4, and 5 are the ones that get the most love and get talked about the most. I don't know if the series just started clicking then, or if the old ones are so old that most people who would be on social media talking about them just haven't had much experience with them. So I didn't dig that deep, but I do know there's been a lot of talk for Persona 3, 4, and 5 on social media, especially after after 5 came to the Switch.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that is strange. I wonder why they wouldn't bring Persona 3 Reload to the Switch.
And maybe they will. Maybe it'll just be a delay. It took a long time for Persona 5 to come over too. Or maybe it didn't sell well. Maybe it was too much work. I don't know, but I'll be curious to see what happens there.
Yeah. So it sounds like maybe they're giving it another shot with Tactica, Persona 5 Tactica.
Yeah.
And maybe that does.
The thing about Tactica too is, and maybe I can play this one because I joked about how cool the characters were in, and not just the characters, the stylized gameplay, the way they talked, the way they moved, the way they dressed. It was just it was really sweet the way the whole thing came together. But Persona 5 Tactica, they changed the graphics, and now they're all they're more cartoony. They're more like kids. Instead of high school or they aged. So the whole presentation is it's aimed at a younger audience. They're not as sexy as they were. So I'm curious to see how the gameplay is because of the radical visual change and the style. So we'll see what happens. I think it's coming out. I can't remember. It's late 2023, early 2024.
Oh, okay. That was my next question. When is this expected? So now we know end of the year or maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe November. November just popped into my head. So I think Persona 5 Tactica is coming to the Switch in November.
Cool. Okay. Well, we'll sort of keep an eye on that and see if there is anything related to Persona 3 Reload being separately announced for a later date or something. Yep. But yeah, interesting. The next one that is a pretty cool announcement, I think, and also one that's very recent, I think maybe you were saying late this week, maybe Thursday or Friday, is that the Lara Croft Collection is coming to the Switch, and I believe it's coming out very soon at the end of this month, actually, which is only like 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
So this is a collection of 2 games, which I'm thinking isn't, I guess you only need 2 to make it a collection. But for me, a collection would be 3 or more. But anyway, that's fine. So we've got Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, which is a 2010 title, and Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris, which is a 2014 title. I actually don't have I don't have much experience with Lara Croft. I've known about it since it first launched. I think, was it 1996 or something on the PlayStation? There we go, mentioning that word again. And, you know, I have never owned a PlayStation. I'm a pure Nintendo person. And so I know there have been a couple of games I think have filtered across to various systems. I think there was one on the Wii, maybe one on the Game Boy Advance or something like that. Various versions, because I think there are now about 19 games in the Tomb Raider Lara Croft series. And I don't know what the difference is between a Tomb Raider game and a Lara Croft game. I think they're probably quite similar. Would that be correct?
They do have different styles, I think, but Tomb Raider's changed so much over the years that even the newer games that still carry on the Tomb Raider brand feel a lot different from they did when from those early games.
Yes, they definitely look different. That's for sure. I wonder why they've chosen these 2 games, though. It seems a bit random. Maybe they're sequential. Maybe they don't seem like the first or the third or anything like that, though. I don't know. It seems like a little bit of an odd pairing. But anyway, did you play either of these 2 at the time?
I haven't. I know. Let's see, Tomb Raider. It's been so long since there's been a Nintendo release. So my only real experience with it were the very early games I played on my Macintosh. In fact, the first reviewing gig I had back in the day was it's possible the first review I ever wrote was Tomb Raider 2.
Wow.
For the Mac, because that was a huge announcement. The Mac had no games, and then Aspire came along and got the rights to Tomb Raider 2 somehow, and they brought it over, and it was glorious. And
cool.
We were thrilled. And Aspire still around and releasing games for the Switch now, so good for them.
Is this the Mac that's in your basement?
No. I could play Aspire games on the Mac that I'm on right now for the podcast, actually. But
cool. Yeah.
It was these games were after the SE.
Right.
Although I probably have the games that they were released on in my basement too. I really got to get some old computers out of my basement.
Yeah, sounds like it. Got a good collection down there yourself. Yeah.
But the Lara Croft games, possibly there was a puzzle game that I played on my iPhone. They released and maybe even Apple TV. And it looks like this game is along those lines. I'm not sure if it's the same game, but they're different in that. Instead of just being like Laura was third person, right? A third person action game. They're more like, say, Diablo, where we're looking down on multiple characters. It's not just Laura. She's joined by 2 to 3 other people, 1 to 3 other people, for like exploration and environmental puzzles to solve and action, like the Diablo style action, or what was that game called? The arcade Gauntlet, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
So it's a completely different feel. I think they call them Lara Croft instead of Tomb Raider because it is a totally different style of gameplay. But it still honors the tradition of we're going to go exploring You're going to have to figure out how to open doors and get across chasms. There's going to be some enemies you're going to have to fight, and you're going to find treasure. But now you're doing it cooperatively with everybody working together on one screen. In fact, I believe the multiplayer is local only. There's no online play.
Okay. Yes, I did wonder, because I think, the trailer did show 4-player co-op, which looked really cool, but I wasn't sure if it was online or not. So apparently not.
Yeah, so I like the idea of using, if you're playing multiplayer that way, not just running around, casting spells or I keep referring to Diablo, that kind of gameplay, but also having to work in tandem to solve puzzles in order to get through the things. Like, you have to go here and flip this, and we need to do these at the same time, kind of thing. So it looks like it'll be fun. I'll just be curious to see if it works better if you do need 4 people, if 2's enough, and what it'll be like if you have to play it by yourself.
Yes. And would they have sort of AI controlled people, or just not? Would it just be Lara by herself?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Because sometimes those AI characters aren't very useful. So, and then sometimes they are in different games. I don't know. I don't know what Lara Croft's like.
Well, these came out in 2010 and 2014, so probably not useful.
Probably not. AI. No. Yeah. But the trailer, it did look good. I don't know. I assume it's been kind of redone for the Switch. Probably on other consoles as well, but it's not just a straight port. I'm guessing it's like a, they've remastered it sort of thing, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. And it's coming from Feral Interactive. And again, any Mac user will know that name. They were a company that brought a lot of other companies' games to the Mac. Again, going back to the days of like Tomb Raider. So they have a lot of experience with taking other companies' games and optimizing them for the system that they're going to release it on. Cool. They do a great job with that. In fact, they have done other Switch games, recent games, including Alien Isolation, which was absolutely fantastic on the Switch, and then Grid Autosport. So it's not their first attempt at bringing games over to the Switch, and they, like I said, that they're really good at it. So I think that this could be a kind of a real gem in the middle of the summer.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Early in the summer, I guess.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's
US
right.
Summer.
US summer. Yes, it's winter for me, but that's okay. Yeah, June 29, which is, as I said, only a couple of weeks away. So that's a nice little surprise announcement, I think. And the trailer did look quite good to me. It's a quite short trailer, the one I saw. It's like a minute long. Check it out if you haven't already seen it, if you're interested in Lara Croft and her antics. I think I do. The multiplayer aspect appeals to me. I can imagine playing this with my kids and having quite a good time with it. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. So let's move on to now some games that we have been playing. And I wanted to briefly touch on something we mentioned last week, which was there were 4 games released for the Switch Online collection, which we talked about. And Trev had tried them. You and I had not. And I did go back. I promised Trev, who's not here today, but I did promise Trev I would try Master Blaster and Mystery Tower. So I went and did that. I was not successful in either one of them. They were very hard. So I didn't spend a lot of time in them. But Mystery Tower, I think I mentioned last week, I was very interested in this one anyway, just because it is a Famicom game that was not previously released to Western audiences. So I had not even heard of this game. It looks, I think, what did we say the name of the dude was like Indiana something. It was like an amalgamation.
Indy Borgnine.
Yeah, Indy Borgnine. I don't know how anyone knows that because it doesn't say that in the game, but I suppose there's some sort of preamble somewhere that says.
I saw it on the, was it Wikipedia or was it the game's Nintendo page? I'm not sure. But.
Yeah. And he's like purple and I'm pretty sure he has a feather in his cap. So he looks like a pretty, I don't know, interesting character. And it's hard. Like I did not dedicate a lot of time to this, but I just wanted to try it. I could not pass the first level. I feel ashamed to say this, but it seems very easy. The premise, you're this little character, you have to escape from a room or a level, I suppose, in a tower and get to the next level. Level 1, you come out, you enter the room. There's 2 pieces of stairway, I suppose. You can pick up and move around. And so you have to work out the right combination to pass the level. As Trev said, you can't. So the stairs are like one step, I guess, and then there's areas that are 2 steps. And if you don't use the stair pieces, if you just jump down the 2 steps, you die. So, which seems odd because it's just 2 stairs. But anyway, this indie is not very flexible or sporty. So you die very quickly. You have 2 lives as well. So it's very I guess NES hard is a good way to put it because you only have 2 lives. And the other thing that I don't think Trev mentioned, or at least I don't remember him saying this because I didn't know about it, there's a power meter. Well, it's actually just a counter. I think you start off with 10 or 20, and every time you pick up one of these stair pieces, that uses power, and so your number depletes by 1. So you go from 20 to 19, and then if you have to pick it up again, it goes to 18. When that gets to 0, you die. So randomly you can pick up these, I think, sort of power-ups that just all they really do is just add 1 to your power counter. So it does go up sometimes randomly, but more than often than not, it goes down. And I didn't know. I thought it was a timer at first, so I was trying to hurry. And I was picking up the stairs, putting them down, picking up the stairs, putting them down, and I died very quickly because the counter reached 0. And I did it maybe 5 times to give it a good go. And I sort of, as I said, this is level 1. It's very simple. There's sort of 2 levels, and then 1 level it's down, and then there's an exit door on the far left. So you've got 2 pieces. So I went down a level, I went up a level, and then I was carrying this stair piece, and I could not work out how to make it face the right way so that I could climb up to the door. And so I just used up all my power and perished yet again. So it's an interesting premise, and I appreciate it. And I think it's a 1986 title, and I can see it being something that would have been appreciated in 1986 for sure. I might try it again, but I was stumped. I just could not work out. Maybe I'm just not a lateral thinker. I don't know. Anyway, so that was my experience with Mystery Tower. Master Blaster, I also gave a quick go. And this is more of a, I suppose, run and gun type of situation. You're driving a vehicle I think you're a kid. I don't know. There's some deal. The vehicle it's like a entity that speaks to you or something. Anyway, it's a Game Boy Advance. It was a Game Boy Color title, so it's quite simple. Again, there's no real story. But I think if you read online, the story is that you're a kid driving a vehicle and it has a personality. In the game, you're just driving around shooting things. And it's also hard. And one of the things I guess I liked in terms of making it more difficult is that you have a limited amount of ammo. So you have to be very careful with your shots. You have to shoot things, and then sometimes you might get a little power-up that gives you extra shots, but generally you have to be very careful with not wasting the bullets that you have in your arsenal. And there's lots of enemies. It reminded me a little bit of, I suppose, like an early Metroid game, just in that there's things that fly at you. They're kind of mechanical things as opposed to those bat creatures from Metroid, but it has that same feel where they're just diving at you. You have to dodge them or shoot them. Yeah. So, yeah, it was, I'm glad I tried it. It was tough. I think if you like tough games, definitely give it a go. If you like NES games, give it a go. Well, sorry, this is not NES. This is Game Boy. But still, it's something unique to try if you haven't tried it before. We'll see if I go back to it or not. It's probably a bit difficult. I'd probably rather be playing Zelda, but that's okay. So I think you have a game that you were playing during the week, which is called Scarlet Hood and the Wicked Wood.
Yeah,
that sounds familiar somehow.
It's been out for a while. In fact, I was thinking of trying some of those games like that we talked about last week, as you did. But then I saw this is a game I've had on my wish list for a while now. It was released in April of 2022, and it went on sale. In fact, it's on sale until June 30th for $1.99.
Wow. What's it usually worth?
Yeah. It's normally $14.99. So it's not an expensive game to begin with, but I thought for $1.99, I'll just get it now and play it when I have a chance. But of course, once I downloaded it, I thought, all right, I'm going to launch it to play it for a little bit. And it's kind of an adventure game, adventure puzzle game, but it also has certain elements where you need to like fight things and dodge things, avoid things. It's really much more difficult than you would expect out of an adventure puzzle game. But the premise is insane because it's like, I think it's supposed to be a punk rock band that this girl's in. She's dressed the part, but there's like a drummer and a keyboard player, and she sings and plays guitar, and then there's a clarinetist.
Cool.
So it's not like a band that makes any kind of sense whatsoever. And she's got this thick Southern accent. You don't hear a lot because you mostly read. But so again, it's just like constantly playing with your expectations of what a band is even supposed to be. But they have a gig they have to get to because they want to get a recording contract. And after the gig, they went really well. This woman offers a contract, but not for the band, just for the lead singer. So now we've got a problem.
Okay.
She doesn't tell the band this. She's thinking about it. They find out. They get mad. She goes home, and then she gets sucked up in a tornado into a mystical world. So now it's the Wizard of Oz.
Right. I was thinking,
kind of crossed with Red Riding Hood and other fairy tales. She comes across these other people. She needs to get to this certain place to take on the Black Witch. But she keeps, like, as they're going, basically what happens is I don't know if she dies or they just get trapped, but she ends up in this time loop where she has to go back to the beginning of the day kind of thing. She recognizes this. And so you kind of like have to solve puzzles and get things in place so that when you get to the point where she died, she's able to get past that. And that's basically the premise of the game.
Cool. It looks interesting. Yeah, she definitely has a Red Riding Hood vibe. I mean, Scarlet Hood, and she has a scarlet hood. She's got a red, hood over her head. She looks, the part. Looks like there's some sort of pumpkin head guy, which does look very Wizard of Oz to me.
Yes. In fact, he's one of the first people that you kind of have to, I'll say, put together at the beginning of the game. One of the first puzzles is saving the fellow who he's trapped in a wine bottle. It's a spirit that's trapped in a wine bottle, and he needs a body. So you have to put together the body for him to be able to help out.
Cool. Well, that definitely looks interesting. $1.99 is a good price. That's like 86% off. I only know that because I'm not a whiz at maths. I am looking at the website right now. So, which is a really good deal. So if that sounds interesting to listeners, go ahead and purchase it. You've got a couple of weeks to do so.
The $1.99 is a good way to do it too. Because, like I said, if you're a puzzle adventure gamer, just want to go around and explore, solve some puzzles, and move on. There are some really difficult elements where you have to avoid monsters or figure out how to fight them, and they make it hard. There are hearts. If you lose 5 hearts, you die. So again, you can't just walk around all day and try to solve things. You've got to pay attention.
Yeah. It looks, cartoony and colorful. The animation looks quite good as well.
Yeah. The animation is one of the highlights, I think, and it does have a decent sense of humor about it too.
Yeah, that it does seem to be. Who's the developer of this? I can see the publisher. Who developed it?
What is the company called? They're the same. They developed another game that I played called Vambrace Cold Soul, which was a completely different kind of game, but sort of had the same visual vibe to it. I'm going to have to look it up.
That's okay. Yeah, no, that looks really cool. Thank you for sharing that one. The game, I guess I haven't written this on our notes, but I am playing a game, which is a review game, which is it's actually called Despot's Game. And I don't know if you know anything about this one, Kirk. I think the review code came via you, but I'm not sure. A lot of codes do, so you may not remember this one particularly. It's, I don't even know how to describe this game. It's very odd. It's kind of a futuristic, I suppose, world. Despot is the name of a robot entity, and it's his game. You have to play, you have to get through, and you're sort of controlling a group of humans. They look like just tiny little naked worms. They're just very small, and you control, I think, 4 at the beginning, and you can purchase more as you proceed. But basically, you're in a sewer kind of area, and you're going from room to room, fighting enemies. And you can sort of you can position your people at the start of each room and, put them in different line or put people at the back or whatever. And there's some archers, like there's sort of melee and long-range fighters. You can give them weapons as well. You buy weapons along the way. And then when you're ready, you press a button and you attack, and they just attack. You don't have to do anything. You just watch them attack and or die. So they keep attacking until the monster of that room is dead, basically, and then you move on to another room. Sometimes a shop appears and you can buy things, such as more humans. I made the mistake of seeing this option available. I'm like, well, I'm just going to buy 20 humans, and then I'll be unstoppable and I'll kill every monster I see. But when you move from room to room, your humans have to eat, and so you have a food meter, I suppose, that depletes, and mine depleted very quickly because I had too many humans. So I did not last long. So there's a bit of a balance there. It's kind of a strategy game, I suppose. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of strategy because I don't know, it's really weird. But it's fun. It's quirky. I'll say that. It's a very quirky, humorous sort of style of game. And it's a bit of a roguelite in that the rooms, I think, are randomly generated. So there's boss fights along the way. So there's bigger kind of entities to combat. And I feel I use the word entity a lot more now. And do you know why, Kirk?
Tell me.
Because of doors on Roblox. Have you heard of this? My kids love this game, and they love telling me about all the entities because they're called entities indoors. They're not enemies, they're not monsters, they're entities. And so I've found myself using that term more and more because of doors. Anyway, that's a bit of a side note. So yeah, that's what I'm playing at the moment for review, Despot's game. So watch that. That should be up this week. And the other thing I was sneakily hoping to ask you about, Kirk, which I know you can't talk a lot about because you mentioned last week, excuse me, that you're playing a new JRPG title. So this was something you mentioned last week that you were reviewing. I believe you had a fair amount of time with it, which is a good thing. It's not released until the end of the month, which may mean there's some kind of embargo around how much we can say. So I guess I just wanted to follow up and see how that's going in terms of are we allowed to mention it, and how long have you been playing it, and what are your initial thoughts in a vague way? What can you tell us?
Okay. Well, I could be vague.
Yeah.
I think. I do think it's rare that we get games where we're not allowed to say that we got early access to the game.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The company that put this out has asked that, and of course I'm more than happy to oblige. So not a big deal. It's more important to me that we get early access to the game so we could spend a lot of time with it and get the review out in time, and they gave me plenty of time on this one. But it's an upcoming JRPG. It's a part of a series that's out that I know because if you click on just the right amount of things on Twitter, then pretty soon everything on Twitter is about that. But I have seen an awful lot of excitement around it. So. Yeah, it's a JRPG that it carries on a story that I had thought from previous games that was over. So, it's kind of excited to get back in with these characters. And people who were into the game are going to find an awful lot to love about it on this one. Although once I get into the review, there are some things that I didn't like about the previous ones that are still there. Unfortunately, and there are 2 or 3 things about this that they've changed quite a bit, and I'm not sure that I like them. Okay. So that's another reason why I'm happy that we get early access to some of these games, is because it gives me a lot of time to kind of stew on these things, as opposed to just, a lot of times when we're writing reviews, we got to get them out quickly. We play the game quickly, we finish it. And, here's the initial thought. But the more you think about it or go back into it and spend a little more time with it, find out maybe this isn't so bad after all. So that's where I'm at with this right now, is trying to push through the story, and B, coming to terms with some of these new elements that are sort of catching me off guard at the moment. Yeah,
cool. Well, that sounds interesting. I like that this was almost a surprise in that you thought the series was over and now there's a new entry. So that's pretty cool. I don't know what it is. So I don't know what the name of it is. I can't accidentally slip it out. But I like the intrigue around it. So, and it's only a couple of weeks away until it launches, and I suppose that's when you can reveal it and also your review. So I look forward to hearing your final thoughts, I suppose, and what it actually is. So,
well, my embargo does lift on a Friday. So if we record on Fridays like we normally do, then
cool.
We'll be all set to go.
Oh, perfect timing. Yes. We can debut that news right here on the Pure Nintendo podcast. So excellent. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it sounds like, mixed thoughts at the moment, but also plenty of time to sort through them and see whether they actually gel with you over the next couple of weeks. And I mean, like you've continually said, JRPGs, they're longer games. They're meant to be played over a longer period. So you can't rush these things, right? So
yeah. And the thing about this one too is, and if anyone's listening and is experienced with JRPGs, they'll probably know what I'm talking about, just from the way I've described it. But of all the ones I've played, this series is heaviest with the lore that carries across from game to game, the number of characters, and just the narrative. There's an awful lot of story in this game. Unlike it's the complete opposite of Zelda, where you've got hardly any story, and most of the gameplay comes from just exploring and ringing bells.
Yes.
Putting teddy bears in a cart.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one is much more, you're following a story. There's no explanation. It's guiding you straight down the path. You're fighting, you're collecting things, you're leveling up. And along the way, there's not only does the gameplay give you a ton of narrative, but there are other ways like books and things that you find along the way that if you want, you can read those. And these aren't short. You're not just like flipping two or three things at a time. You could spend minutes pouring through these books that will carry across, like you're going to find one volume and then two and then three and then four. So it's the exact opposite, and it really is meant to pull you in and not allow you to get distracted from what matters to it. So it's
does it work from that perspective
to play alongside Zelda?
Yeah. Do you think it works from that perspective to draw you in? Does it do a good job?
I tend to avoid a lot of the extra reading. And I could say why, but then it would definitely reveal what I'm doing.
Right.
And it sounds like I'm being so secretive about this. I'm really not. I'm just honoring a request.
Yeah, which is fine.
Embargo,
I mean, so. I was going to ask just generally because, a lot of games have this mechanic, I suppose, where there's a book. And do you find that mechanic annoying where you find a book and you have to read it, or do you embrace it? And I think you've answered it. You skip it. So maybe
unless it's short or somehow is like really relevant in some way. But all JRPGs have things like that. It's like there's always got to be another element aside from just the main gameplay. There's got to be like mini games, like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, when there was that arcade game that you had to play in order to get materials that you could use to level up one of the characters. So why do I don't want to play this mini game? There's enough game here already. You don't need to give me another one in the middle of it. Or like what was that old Final Fantasy game where there was that weird like water-based soccer game or something that you had to play to get stuff? That tends to annoy me, but again, that's one of the beauties of JRPGs. A lot of people love it.
True.
I find it usually just annoys me. Tactical card games, even in The Witcher had that. The Witcher 3 had that tactical card game in it that you could play. I'm like there's no shortage of tactical card games available on the Switch. I can play them there. I don't need to do it here.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I suppose if it's rant over, end rant. If it's an optional game, maybe that makes it a bit more accessible. You like it with Zelda, you don't have to collect the teddies and put them in the cart. If you want the reward, you do, but the reward is food or rupees probably. But if it's part of the game that you actually have to do it, maybe you feel like that's more annoying because you're being forced down a path.
Yeah, and It also is, I have to admit, I suck at tactical card games. I mean, I don't know why, because I'm decent at the Fire Emblem games. That's just tactical combat. But the moment it's cards and I have to lay them down and there's someone else laying down cards, I just get lost and I'm no good. So that's the other thing. If I was good at them, maybe I'd feel different.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know why they would think to do, water soccer or card games in a game that's not about cards. I don't know. It seems odd. But maybe someone's passionate about it. Some developer had an idea and they wanted to just diversify and make things a bit interesting for certain players. I don't know. Who knows? Only the developers know for sure.
They must be working, because most JRPGs have it in one form or another.
True. So something is going right, I guess. And JRPGs aren't going anywhere, which is a good thing for fans such as yourself. So, yes. Well, thank you for that vague wrap up of a game we can't reveal the title of. But yes, all good. Anything else you're playing at the moment or this week that you wanted to let us know about before we close off?
Nope. Just that Scarlet Hood, and I really got to get back to Zelda this weekend. Yeah, it has to be done, right? So,
because
we have to finish that up before Pikmin 4 comes out.
I know, and that's drawing ever closer. It's now only just over a month away. So, yeah, it's good. I mean, we thought there was a bit of a gap and not much to do, but of course, Zelda takes up a lot of time. And then there are all these other games, whether it's, Scarlet Hood type of games that you pick up that you're just interested in, or whether it's review games. We're always busy, and I'm sure a lot of other players feel the same way, because the Switch eShop is expanding every week with new content. So, yeah, there's always something to play. This week was an interesting roundup. It seemed to be a lot of new seasons for existing titles like Fortnite, Rocket League, stuff like that. I don't know if you're into any of those kind of games, but
I'm not. I know. Again, I keep talking about Sam because he seems to play everything. Was big into Fortnite for a long time and then stopped, and now Max, my youngest son at 12 years old, has discovered Fortnite. He and his friends are down there playing it all day long during the summer. So,
yes, I think that's the other thing. My kids are not playing it yet because they're a bit young, but kids seem to be playing Fortnite outdoors from what I can tell, or Minecraft. So yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much. I think we'll leave it there since we're about at the hour mark, which is perfect. Thank you very much for joining me this week, Kirk. I've had a lot of fun talking about all these fun and interesting games with you. I hope listeners have enjoyed the show. If you do like what you hear, please leave us a review. You can rate us on Spotify or Amazon or Apple, or you can like and subscribe on YouTube. And we'll be back next week with more Nintendo goodness. Until then, game on.